Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another video. Boozer here. So today's the first day of the fusion event for Islin, the high elf defensive champion here. So he is actually in game. We see his base stats for the first time. Very nice base defense. He's a defense based champion. The main thing for him is that he has the provoke on the A1, the AoE decreased speed on a 3-turn, and then he has some self buffs and some team buffs, and his passive is like sort of like a Voga team heal kind of thing, but not really. But yeah, we're gonna go over this a little bit more. Basically, I saw some video footage of him in action, and it seems like his heal ability won't heal if he is at full health. So if he doesn't actually heal, he won't heal anybody on your team. So that's a bit of a bummer, to be honest. And then this, although it's, we've seen similar moves from lots of champions, like namely like somebody like Jareg, who has a 4-turn increased defense, ally protection, and is pretty useful for clan boss. But Jareg's actually much better than Islin in clan boss because Jareg has the A1 attack down, where Islin is mostly a Hydra champion. So if you look at his kit, it has that AoE decreased speed. Like I said, he has to provoke for the head of the K. So these two skills are very good for Hydra, although you probably want, they're not too impressive by themselves, but together is actually pretty nice on a single champion. This move, team protection, also allows him to be targeted as a mischief buff, is okay as well. So that's probably where he'll be used most often. We're going to go over the fusion calendar today, so stay tuned for that. Let's hop into that. And it's live in game, so let's have a quick look here. Just wanted to go over his kit real quick with everybody because it's the first time I'm seeing it. But here's the fusion calendar, so we're going to go over this today. So as with all fusions, I try to do things with as little resources as possible, especially from a free play standpoint. Obviously, I'm very advanced in the game, so things like dungeon farming, I farm at the highest levels. Arena farming, it's going to be very quick and easy. And even artifact enhancement, I have lots of silver, so it's not even a matter of saving silver. But I will approach all of these events in the most free-to-play way possible, especially for the audience that probably is not in a similar state as me in the game. So today is day 1, where it's 31st. Fire Knight and Champion Training starts. It's very hard to have any kind of solo farming team for Fire Knight and Champion Training, so you probably need to do both of these events separately. So I would recommend probably investing some time into your Champion Chase today, since there is no Dungeon Divers, followed by Dungeon Diving into Fire Knight tomorrow. So you can start your Fire Knight tomorrow, where you can double dip into Dungeon Divers. Keep in mind, there will be a summon rush tomorrow. We already have the 10x live in game. The 10x news has been announced. So let's see that. All right, looks like the main prize from the 10x is going to be Lady Kimmy, Ragash, Elva Autumnborn, and Susan the Valorious, which is the new Void Legendary, kind of like Arbiter 2.0. But anyways, those are the 10x champions. It's going to be live when the summon event, summon rush happens tomorrow. But if you guys are viewing this video today it is Fire Knight and Champion Training, so it's not going to be too much going on today. If you guys can focus a little bit, maybe using some brews or chickens to level up some of your champions for training, then that's perfectly fine. Energy spending is going to happen probably tomorrow with Dungeon Diver and Fire Knight. So as you complete the Fire Knight tournament, you probably won't have enough to finish the Dungeon Diver tournament, which is fine. You'll have one day at the end for a Spider tournament, so you will be able to finish the Dungeon Divers together with some Spider. Lately, the Dungeon Divers have been extremely expensive. So we're looking at, like, I believe the last fusion was like 4,700. And in this fusion, we're actually looking at 3 Dungeon Diver events. 1, 2, 3. So this is really, really high energy spending, and it's a big problem when it doesn't really line up with events. So we'll have a quick look here. It kind of works okay with the way that the dungeon tournaments are structured. So for example, here we got the end of Spider. We got the beginning of Spider with the end of the first Dungeon Divers. That's kind of okay. You follow that up with the second Divers here. Although there is a little bit of a lull period here, so I'm not sure. This day might just be a rest day. Definitely just use your free energy, no inbox energy or anything like that. You will be finishing off the Spire Tournament into the first day of the Dungeon Diver 2, followed by Dragon to finish off Dungeon Divers. The problem with Dungeon Diver is that to finish the whole event, especially from the previous fusions, it's almost the same as finishing 2 of these dungeon events. So you might need to use extra energy towards one of these dungeons just as an extra, just to finish off the Dungeon Divers event. Dragon here lines up nicely with the training tournament. There's multiple like solo dragon possibilities, namely like RTAC is probably the most accessible for most people. So definitely look up some RTAC builds. Maybe you guys can definitely solo like Dragon 20 to make this more efficient. Dragon 20 will be the most efficient in terms of points per energy, followed by Hard 10, followed by Dragon 24, and then all the other hard dungeons will be better than Dragon 25, for example. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, the breakdown of the points. So follow this up. The big thing I see here is that there's actually no bonus frags from the dungeon tournaments. So in the past, usually if you win one of these dungeon tournaments, you get an extra 5 frags. It gives you a little bit of breathing room. But you will notice down here, move my head, that we only have 130 total shards, total fragments available. Usually, I believe this total is much higher. We're able to get some more extra fragments, which allows us to skip some events. So in this case, we only have a total of 110 available, which allows us only to skip 10 fragments. Usually they give us an extra 15, which allows us to skip either the top part of the Summon Rush or the Champ Chase completely. So Plarium is definitely trying something new here. So they're definitely trying something new where they're actually putting the Summon Rush at 15, where sometimes it's at 20 usually. And then they also have the normal 15 Champ Chase, but in this case they only give us an extra 10. So if we just complete all these tournaments, we can only skip 10 fragments, or all these events, all these tournaments, we can only skip 10 fragments, which doesn't allow us to skip one of the fragment events. So they've done this in the past. I think this case they're doing a more deliberate. They're trying to do something more deliberate, where they're kind of also tweaking with the tournament win fragments. So I think in the past, people, when they saw like this reduced amount of fragments, they would try to supplement that by winning a tournament, getting the extra fragments, let's say from Ice Golem, which is not a very popular dungeon still. But people would try to win the Ice Golem tournament to get the 5 extra frags so that they're allowed to skip one of the Summon Rush or a Champ Chase. I've seen that happen, and I think that's a popular strategy. So now Plarium actually shut that down. So they shut down that strategy now. The only way you can get extra fragments from a win is from training or Champ Chase. Chase is very hard to win usually, and training is very expensive. So, you know, that's Plarium's way of trying to make sure that we get it rough in this fusion. But yeah, so my advice, also these 3 Dungeon Diver events going to be super expensive, 4,700 probably, maybe. We've been seeing it go up. There's 3 of them. Maybe they cut us a break, but I don't think so. We got 3 artifact enhancement events, and these have been very expensive this year. About 4,700, 4,775, I believe, which is roughly about 20 million silver if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, it's going to be 25. If you're lucky, it's probably going to be like 15. But they've been going up all year. And, you know, it's not going to be enough just farming regular dungeons to stockpile 20 million in like 3 days. So it's going to be a little bit difficult on that end. Some good is that the Champ Chase does line up with 2x voids, which is okay value. It's going to cost you about maybe like 30 voids to finish. I would estimate that the Summon Rush would be probably about 6 or 7 Sacreds worth, so about 3,000 to 3,500. If Plarium decides to break up the 15 into 5 and 10, or the Summon Rush into 5 and 10, it's going to give us a little bit more flexibility. But we don't know that. And they've done alternating things in the past, so we actually have no idea. And yeah, just to wrap up this fusion calendar, so we have Ice Golem finishing off your last Dungeon Divers. That's pretty much it. And Ice Golem does actually fit well with training, so you can actually use like somebody like Artak, for example, to solo farm, or there's other champions as well. Theodore can do it, Tomb Lord can do it. So you can solo farm Ice Golem, get some Dungeon Divers, champion training as well. And I don't really talk about the Classic Arena because those are pretty straightforward. Definitely one of the most straightforward events. But I do want to talk about what we want to do in terms of the Summon Rush and Champion Chase. And so I think we have to complete this Summon Rush first. And depending what the Champ Chase is, so let's say we complete the Summon Rush. We cannot skip the Summon Rush tomorrow. So we must finish it. We don't have time to prep for it. Hopefully you guys have some shards saved up. But we do the Summon Rush tomorrow. Do all the events up to the Champ Chase. And depending how the Champ Chase breaks up, if it's 5 and 10, then we have some flexibility. Because then that means we can pick up the 5 and then maybe skip some of the remaining events. Maybe we can skip the last Dungeon Divers. That would be kind of huge, right? But that's to be determined. We don't know. If not, we have to complete both the Summon Rush and the Champion Chase, and then we will have 10 extra frags that we can skip. So at that point, we can probably skip, Ice Golem, Dungeon Diver. Yeah, it's just we have to complete the Summon Rush first going in and be prepared to complete both. If the Champion Chase gives us some flexibility with the 5 and 10 split with the fragments, then maybe we can skip something else, like for example the Champion Training, which this is the long one, so it's probably going to be about 8,000 points. It's definitely going to be much bigger, more investment. So yeah, overall, do I feel this champion is even worth this trouble? Personally, I think if you're low on resources, I think this is a skip. Fragments are generally pretty easy, so you kind of just do your normal grinding and then you kind of just get it. But I feel like these recent fragments, they require very specific effort, and the effort seems to be increasing every fusion. For this particular champion, he doesn't look particularly good anywhere. He's going to be better in Hydra than he is in Clan Boss, but he is usable in Clan Boss. Although I think Jareg will be better alternative than Islin in Clan Boss, so I'm just going to forget this guy in Clan Boss exists. But for Hydra, he's actually very decent. A comparable champion to him would be somebody like, would be somebody like Visix. Visix is actually very solid. She has the AoE decreased speed as well with the ally protection on a 3-turn cooldown. So this move is actually better than his AoE decreased speed. And then she also has the 3-turn cooldown AoE provoke. Not as good as like ally protection defense up. And she doesn't have a passive to heal. So Islin is probably an upgrade over Visix, but honestly it's not that much better. And Visix is a free login, and she's void, so she doesn't get weak affinity hits. The other champion that's actually very comparable would be Versolf the Grim. It's actually a very solid champion, an old fusion. Just kind of boring kit, right? He has an A1 provoke. He has an AoE double hit, potentially, and then he places a leech, which is actually really good for Hydra. He doesn't have decreased speed, but then he has the same increased defense, allied protection, but it's on a 3-turn cooldown. So it's it's arguably, of course, a lot better for like Clan Boss and things like that. So, and then he has a passive that gives him chance to provoke. So he is actually a better provoker than Islin, but he doesn't bring the AoE decreased speed. Or has a team healing passive or anything like that, but he does bring AoE leech, and he can deal damage on his own, so it's actually a decent comparable champion to Islin. But Versolf we never really see play really too much anywhere, so I don't really feel like Islin will step up into any kind of content that we have currently existing, and I don't feel his kit is unique enough that it will show up in any future content either. Especially when you compare it against just normal like other champions like Versolf the Grim, for example. Anyways, that's going to be my kind of like review of everything. Personally, I'm going to be still going for the fusions because that's kind of like my my thing. I always go for fusions if I'm able to, and that's usually a constraint by shards or time, and I have enough of both to complete this fusion, so it's not a big deal for me. It's also in the high elf faction, which is kind of important because high elf have good legendaries that you might be using, for example like Arbiter, so you want to complete the faction guardians. And yeah, I mean, yeah, so if you guys are low on resources, you know, this might be a skip for you guys. Take it easy, do some masteries, grind some Shogun or grind some Sand Devil. I don't know what you guys are grinding, but yeah, maybe it's time to take it easy. Save some shards. That might be something you guys are interested in. But yeah, don't be too worried about missing this one. I think it can definitely be a skip for a lot of people, and based on what I'm seeing right now, it looks like a challenging one, especially if you're low on resources. These 3 dungeon divers, they could be really bad or bad. So it's gonna be bad, but it could be really bad. And of course, the way the fragments are broken down, it just doesn't give you a lot of flexibility. You can't miss anything really, and you can't miss these summon events most likely. So it's a bit of a bummer, but it is what it is. Hopefully you guys will have too much trouble getting it. Let me know in the comments below what you guys are planning on doing. Are you guys going for him? Are you guys not? Do you guys care? He looks kind of lackluster, so I'm probably expecting you guys to say it doesn't really matter if you guys get him or not. But you know, we're playing. You know, you gotta feel that Pokedex. You gotta feel that Pokedex, right? Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video.